Buenas noches. Tonight we're going to give an introduction to the Flower of Life and to present it in a slightly different way than it is presented in the books. Also to talk about the relationship the Flower of Life has to sacred geometry and to a few other related subjects like crop circles and ETs and a lot of other things associated with it. These two guys on the screen, by the way, are some of the original ETs. They're not from here, really. They're not. They're from the star Sirius. And before that, they were from another galaxy further back over that. And then one day when they came to Sirius, they found out that Sirius and our sun were linked and moved together, and they came here. But they're not really from here. Okay, probably most of you have guessed by now this is the Flower of Life. Flower of Life, it's interesting how I found out about it. It took me 12 years of research, of doing research with sacred geometry. And ultimately, anyone who works in sacred geometry long enough comes back to the realization that this holds all sacred geometry. Period and end, everything there is. Now, what is sacred geometry? Well, everything in the reality, everything, the stars, the planets, the sun, your body, everything in this world that we know of, just everything that exists, everything that's manifested through the sacred geometrical proportions. And there is no exceptions, absolutely zero. Everything you can think of, any words you can say, in fact, the very words themselves came out of sacred geometry. Even language comes out of sacred geometry. It's all of that. Even things that you would never guess, like emotions and feelings. It was Manfred Klein and Dan Winter in the United States who figured out that emotions were related to sacred geometry. They put people on EKG machines and put them up and found that there was a sine wave signature that a person was emitting when they were feeling a certain feeling. And every feeling has a unique sine wave signature. And those sine wave signatures are then converted into three-dimensional forms that you can hold in your hands. And all of those forms are based on sacred geometry. So there's a thing a three-dimensional polyhedron you can hold in your hand that represents love, and another one that represents the opposite, say hate. And so this is clear with the entire world that's studying this right now, and I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people now studying it. But there was a time, even though this is new to the world right now, it's new because it hasn't been remembered in a long time. There were only a few people. Rudolf Steiner started to remember this, and people like Buckminster Fuller started to understand it, though he only understood it to a certain level. He didn't really fully get it. And then people like Robert Lawler really got it, and Keith Kirchlow definitely got it. And these people started talking about it, but most of the world didn't have any idea what they were talking about. But long ago, 6,000 years ago, all the way up until roughly right after the Greek Empire in ancient Greece, this was known everywhere, all over the world. The Flower of Life was like Elvis Presley. I mean, everybody knew it. And I'm just going to show you a few places just so you can understand that this truly was everywhere, all over the world. There's different things in here. This is called the Flower of Life. There are 19 circles, if you counted them. in here, and they're surrounded by two circles. Those outer two circles are not just for looks. They're extremely important in all of this. And inside the middle of here, there's this middle one where you see these 6 petals. And then outside of that, there are 6 more that move around that. If you could see that. It's hard to see, but you'll see it in a minute. That's called the seed of life. Now, these are not words I'm making up. These are the actual words that were used in ancient times to describe this. I think they called it the flower of life because it looks like a flower and because it is the laws and proportions for everything alive and even not alive. Everything that's manifested. So the first thing I'm going to do is just show you places around the world where this was found in ancient times. The Essenes, 500 BC. This was their first city that they built after they came out of Egypt. And in the very center of this complex, these are ancient ruins here. This is at Masada. They had a church. And in the center of that church, it was their most important building. And though it's really hard to see in the slide, and if you pull it up close and look at it, you can see it. But right here, this is the floor. And it's not even focused. You got to do, okay, trust me. This was a big square at one time, and squares that came in right here, which you could see the outer ends of it that was still left on the floor, was the flower of life. It's very clear if you're there. I've had people that were there and took really good photographs of it. And so the flower of life was actually a central motif in the Essene community. This comes right out of the center, like I was showing you before. And you'll see both of these, both the center one and that complex right there in ancient times. This is a mosaic floor out of Greece. It's on the island of Crete. And right there, you can see the central motif out of the flower of life. However, the flower of life is found all over Greece. I don't have all the slides here to show it. In fact, they found something that I just got recently, which is really incredible. It's a monastery in Greece. It's very old. It has a big white wall all the way around it, and it's all white buildings, white inside, white outside. And on the outside of this wall, about every 100 feet, is the flower of life, all the way around it. And in every single building, in every single room inside, and even windows in stained glass, is the flower of life. It's interesting. The monk who ran that was named Melchizedek. This is off of a very, very old chest that came out of Turkey. And here you can see the flower of life motif with the 6 circles moving around it. We found it in 18 places around the Mediterranean, in countries practically all the way around it. So it was really well known there. This is called the seed of life, which is out of the middle of the flower of life. And this one here is an interesting one. This is a business that we started a long time ago, making organic seeds from 1988. But this pattern in the back is the seed of life. And it was taken from a wooden box that came from Tibet. And the box contained an instrument for planting seeds. But it came from Tibet. This comes out of Ireland. And it's a doorknob. The doorknob went right through there. And this is more complex with all this Gaelic designs and things. But there's a star here and a star coming back. And there's the 13 patterns. And if you've studied the flower of life, you'll know that this is all connected to the flower of life. We found it in England and France. And we found it in Israel. In several places. We found it in Egypt. In fact, the first place we ever found it was in Egypt. It was found on a 6,000-year-old wall in Egypt, though I believe that even though the wall was 6,000 years old, that the flower of life was not done 6,000 years before, but was done by the Coptics in 500 BC, about the same time as the Essenes. The Coptics and the Essenes were working together. And here's another man we're all familiar with, Leonardo da Vinci, out of the Italian Renaissance. He definitely knew about the flower of life, though the people who have studied Leonardo da Vinci and have spent their lifetime trying to understand his work do not understand this. In fact, it was found in a book of things that they threw away because they didn't know what it was. But this is Leonardo's drawing, showing where he's got the flower of life pattern expanded inside of here. And Leonardo spent a great deal of time looking at all the little angles that were inside the flower of life, making each possible way and relationship that he could find out of this. And he made pages of these, studying the flower of life in great detail. But of course, he was a Mason. And the Masons were intimately connected with the flower of life. And that proof is beautiful, though I can't show it to you here. The Masons, whenever they built a temple, in fact, all the churches that were built in Europe in the earlier days, when they removed the cornerstone out of it, on the back were the signatures of all the Masons and the architects who built that. They were very strange-looking things. They were like a circle with a line going across, or a line like this, and then a line coming over like they were. You just look at them and you go, what's that? But we've looked at several hundred of them, every one that we could find, the names of all these Masons, and every single one of them mapped perfectly over the flower of life. So obviously, they also knew about it. And so do all the zodiacal signs that are in astrology, mapped perfectly over the flower of life. And so do the runes. You know, the runes, the ones that you throw to get the thing, where they came from. Anybody know? Is Sweden or Norway or somewhere up in there? All the runes map perfectly over the flower of life. So they were using that as their key also. And so I could go on for a long time, actually. I'll go a few more. We mentioned Tibet, but a place where this symbol was extremely popular, and is even till today, was China. It's all over China, even today. No matter where you go in there, you'll find it constantly. You'll find it on their screens. You'll find it these folding screens. And one of the most prominent places is in the Forbidden Palace. And in the Forbidden Palace, in the emperor's throne, there are two lions, these snarling lions on either side of his throne. And the lion on the left side of him, if he was facing out, was a female, and it just has a kitten, a lion kitten under her paw. But the lion on the right side, the male, has under his right paw a three-dimensional flower of life. It's a sphere, but it's three-dimensional. And it says right in front of there, because this was what the emperor said, was that this lion was protecting all the knowledge of the universe. And then, if you go into China, you'll find the flower of life everywhere. It's all over the Shinto temples. And again, you'll see the lions protecting not only the flower of life, but the seed of life, and even the central core of life will be displayed. And the first time I ever gave one of these workshops in Japan,